I'm not sure if you can hear me. There's no sound. You have to unmute the mic.
How's that sound?
Can you hear now?
That's better. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
You need to bring your mic closer. If everybody can bring their mic closer so they can be heard. All right.
I'd like to add a copy of ordinance number 42 under bylaw discussion,
And what is ordinance 42?
the development of the plan commission, the
Okay,
development of this commission.
okay. All right, we will add that under item E. Is that okay, or does it need to be prior to A?
Just for discussion.
So this is general ordinance 42,
Yep.
and this is the governance of the planning commission.
Correct.
All right. Any other changes or additions, deletions? Did you say something, Heidi?
No, I said this is Deb's if she comes out.
Okay. All right. So we've set the meeting agenda. Declaration of conflict of interest pertinent to our agenda items tonight. Does anybody have a conflict of interest to declare on our agenda for tonight?
Sorry to interrupt. Where did you put that on the agenda for?
I put
42?
it as item E under new business,
Okay,
general ordinance 42, planning commission. Check the title.
thank you.
Oops. Planning commission ordinance 42. Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is public comment. Any public comment in the township hall?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vicki Beam. I live on Baggs Road. I've been here for several of the planning commissions over the last several years. I am going to be handing out something when Connie Highmore does her public comment from Zoom. I just really hope that everyone pays attention to a very visual illustration of what any means. Many of you know that I am part of the Keep Whitewater Rural LLC. We filed a lawsuit based upon what has transpired on Baggs Road. Quite honestly, the township board, the PC and the ZBA should take full blame for what is going on. I keep having my name along with the LLC put into the board minutes. We have done nothing wrong. We have simply pointed out what the township planning commission and ZBA have ignored. Ordinance is our law. And I hope again that you listen to everything that's been said tonight. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else in the township hall?
Connie Highmore has her hand up.
Okay, Connie, go right ahead.
Can
And
you hear me okay?
say you have something to hand us.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
You could speak up a little more, that'd be great.
Okay. So last month at this meeting, I gave you an analogy. And since I'm not able to be there in person, I'm going to ask Vicki Beam for her help. As you can see, Vicki has a bouquet of lollipops. She's going to walk around the tables and share them with you. So please choose from any of the lollipops. Thanks for your help, Vicki, since I can't be there.
Any color you would like, any flavor.
So last month I shared the analogy with you, and this month the visual is meant to help. So each person had a choice of any of the lollipops that were presented to you. You couldn't choose from just the red ones. You couldn't select just from the purple ones. You could choose a lollipop from all of the bouquet. The key word here is any. You could choose from every one of them. That means any. General Ordinance 26, Section 10 is titled, quote, consequences of non-compliance with land division approval requirements. It says Any parcel created in non-compliance with this ordinance shall not be eligible for any building permits or zoning approvals such as special land use approval or site plan approval, and shall not be recognized as a separate parcel on the assessment roll, unquote. It does not say just the parcels with trees or just parcels that have a meadow. It doesn't say residential. It doesn't say just the commercial lots or agricultural or recreational parcels only. It says any parcel. Any means all. General Ordinance 26 is the land division ordinance of Whitewater Township. Unfortunately, you will not be able to find the general ordinances on the township's website like you can find the zoning ordinances. The general ordinances are a hard copy book only, kept right there in Township Hall. Some days you'll find it on the side table. But most of the time they're under lock and key in the clerk's office. The Township Board, Planning Commission, and Zoning Board of Appeals should be aware and knowledgeable of the general ordinances because many of your important decisions are based on these laws. Yes, laws. About 2 years ago, all members of the PC were asked if they were aware of the general ordinances, since we had just found out about them. The only person at the table to raise their hand was the PC chairperson. How many of you have taken the opportunity to look at this book? Do you wonder why the township is in an upheaval? Do you question why the public has lost its faith in elected and appointed officials in Whitewater Township? Your jobs are very important. You are called to uphold the laws of this township and the decisions that you make. And those decisions affect the people that live in this community. The zoning ordinances and general ordinances are pivotal tools for the success of our community. Thank you. Enjoy your lollipop.
Okay, thank you, Connie. Is there anybody else on Zoom with a public comment?
Connie still has her hand up, but I think she's done.
Okay,
There we go.
all right, moving on. Approval of the minutes from our meeting of September 11th.
I'd like to add a comment.
Denise, did you say you had something?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I just wanted to wait for recognition.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
All right, on number 14, continuing education, the land pollution that we discussed. I have an additional comment. It says discussion, but the core of the discussion was in an April 4th opinion, 2023, requested by state regulators, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel said state environmental law places a due care of obligation on property owners whose land is polluted by historical pesticide use, even though the contamination occurred before they bought it. I'd like to have that statement included in the discussion because that's the important part of it is that if you own it, if you bought it, you own it.
You inherit the
Yeah.
pollution.
Yeah, you inherit the liability. I gave.
So I guess do you have a proposed, like backing up to the exact words you want because it makes it a lot easier.
Yes, I think I gave you to Keith. I gave
Oh,
you
is that what this is?
that little half sheet.
That's what this is?
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I
So
can add that in there.
the
if that's
suggestion there is
everybody-
to update this to add a description.
so if you want to add also that if you purchase property, you inherit the liability of the pollution, it makes it a little bit
Simpler.
simpler. Just add
Okay.
something.
I'm just gonna add what's on here.
That's fine. That's easier for Keith. Thanks for typing that up, Denise. Does anybody else have any adjustments to the meeting minutes?
Those 14B.
They're very vague.
So I think I gave Keith the requirements and.
I know what
meets
the
the requirements.
requirements are, and
Okay.
you can meet the requirements. But I'm gonna give you a little example. If you want to track something in this meeting of an ordinance that was discussed, or for instance, the meeting where it says zoning ordinance updated discussion pages 26, 27, 28, 29 of the meeting packet. Okay. You're limiting the amount of information you're gonna be able to go back and get when you're looking for something. So if you look at our past minutes, they're pretty detailed. But I'm gonna tell you something, I would have never found anything on the COPUD if I had minutes like this. Even the minutes I've read from 1975, 78, 1980, you can at least read them and know what happened at the meeting. I feel like when I read these minutes, I don't know what happened, but to each their own.
Well, I think that that's okay to give Keith feedback, but let's all keep in mind that was his first shot at doing things.
I
And
just volunteered to do this for a couple times so
And-
they figure out.
yeah, I mean.
I mean, I get it, but
We're
you might,
faced with a burden right now.
I understand that, but if you're sitting here and you see something that that you might need to do more homework on, I suggest you better take detailed minutes. Because you're gonna be a crazy person looking for information if you're looking for something.
Well, but I think the point is that in this particular example that you've brought up, if I look back at this packet, which I have it in front of me,
Correct.
this is extremely detailed information regarding what was adjusted.
As
And it
long,
was basically all accepted.
right, as long as you go back and read the packet.
Yep.
But normally when you're looking for something, you're scanning the agenda to see if it was even on there.
Well,
Then
but-
you go to look at different things. I'm just saying, if you can keep doing it like this, but down the road, if you have to do any homework, it's gonna be very hard. If I showed you how I started homework for something, I can show you where I've read good minutes and bad minutes. And sometimes there's bad minutes, because sometimes you do have to go back to the Zoom recording and listen to it. But if the minutes are at least a little more detailed, and if we talk about an ordinance, the numbers in there, then at least you know something happened in that meeting with that number.
Okay,
So
well,
that's my only opinion, but
all right. Thank
I
you.
get it.
Any other comments? Corrections? Okay,
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes of September 11th.
all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, correspondence, we received a couple things. First of all, Milton Township sent out their master plan for the 63-day comment period.
I'll make a comment about that. I tried to get to the link of that and then the link doesn't.
I
work.
did too. I could.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I don't know what to tell you other than call Milton Township on that. One thing I noted, I highlighted it when I read it, is that the Milton Township Planning Commission has approved the distribution of the draft. I thought it was interesting wording that it didn't say the township board. So I thought that was interesting.
No, that's not exactly what the planning law says, but
Yeah, it's interesting too that this letter of notification came from their attorney. That was also interesting.
the attorney or their planner.
Beckett and Rader.
Yeah, it's
That's a
their
planner.
Planner.
Oh, that's their planner.
Oh.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification. I wasn't aware of
I
that.
was gonna say, I don't think the attorney
I
would
thought
do
that
that.
was their attorney.
Never know.
Okay. Enough. Secondly, there was a notification of a meeting that took place yesterday. Zoning Atlas Workshop. Deb, did you actually attend that? Or-
Attend that.
Is there any comment or anything we need to know from that?
So I don't yell from the back of the room.
Thank you.
Basically, there are 3 counties currently in the state of Michigan that have been testing this zoning atlas. It's through Flywheel. It's guy came up with this really great way of basically putting everyone's zoning ordinances in a central location. So if a developer comes into a particular county, they can figure out where the R1s are, where the R2s are, where the R3s are. They're doing it mainly for residential, and they're trying to hone in on the local zoning ordinances so that they can improve the housing. Right now, it's currently being done in Kent County, Muskegon County, and Ottawa County, which is western Michigan along the lake shore. I think Benzie's doing a little bit of with it and pieces and parts. Up north, Michigan is kind of involved with their housing authority, but they're just trying to improve the number of single-family homes, duplexes, apartment buildings, that type of thing. They're trying to maximize the usage along corridors where there's already roads, infrastructure. Obviously, where there's septics and wells, it makes it a little more difficult, but where there's actually an infrastructure for water and waste and all of that. So it was actually quite interesting. They crammed a lot into a 1-hour meeting yesterday. There were some concerns that were raised, but basically what it is, it's just a place where developers, contractors, instead of me getting a phone call every day, like I get multiple today, saying, hey, I'm looking at this piece of property I'm thinking about buying, what can I do on it? This would give them a site that they can go to and hone in on that. So it lets a developer kind of know, where they could go and target certain things. It's in its infant stages. I think they're going to try and get everything keyed in Q4, and they're hoping to have it up and running by mid next year, early next year, Q2 next year. So if I hear anything more, there's a website that you can go to. If anybody got the email on it, there's a link website on there. You can actually go and see what it looks like.
Or there, oh, sorry.
I just have a general question. Is this like funded by the state of Michigan or something?
Actually, it's privately funded and it's funded by grants. Obviously developers they've gotten some grant money privately funded, but so far it's fully funded. I mean, as it grows, it's not something the township has to contribute to. It's not something that they are, going to go out and say, and it has nothing to do with zoning permits. It has nothing to do with getting a permit to build in the county or anything else. It's strictly a central location so that when they go out and do an analysis, like they did one in Kent County and said they're short like 33,000 homes. There's a huge need for housing. And so they're trying to hone in on where can they maximize lands that haven't been tapped yet, be it ag lands. They're actually kind of looking at inner cities and looking at vacant lots where they can go throw up a couple of little mini high-rise kind of thing. And that's what they're kind of honing in on, is where's the vacant properties that already has the infrastructure, has the roads, has the electric, has, everything already
Less
there.
costs.
Yeah. I mean, a few people spoke up at the meeting yesterday. Peninsula Township wants no expansion whatsoever. Some townships are geared towards single-family homes. They don't want they're not looking to put in a bunch of, multifamily units, that type of thing.
Okay.
But it was just real general, but it's a central it's a central site, strictly for zoning ordinances in the various townships within our county.
Okay. Al, did you say?
Yeah, I was wondering, what would they have their zoning map? Was that what would be shown on the website? To where they could look at the districts, or what would be the
They
source?
did it, just like the ARGIS map that they have with Grand Traverse County, and that's what they kind of showed us for the other. And then they put different, they looked at where's all of your R1s in a particular area. So just like our zoning map, our R1s that are along water are designated in a P here or there. But they were honing in on where the residential areas were, so that they could see if they could expand upon where they could build homes. Yeah, but if you go out, if anybody wants the website, you can let me know. And I know it's in the email I received. There's a site you can actually go and look at kind of what they're doing, but it's infancy stages in Grand Traverse County right now, but it's just a central location for all zoning information. Okay.
Here, take this with you. You were absent when I had.
Okay, moving right along, the next items are reports and presentations. So Deb, you're back up again. We've got Deb's zoning report in the packet. So I would just generally ask, do you have an overview you want to present or
Not really.
answer questions?
If anyone has questions, you can let me know. Obviously, we got a couple of short-term rentals that are out there, a lot of accessory structures coming in. You will be getting a package tonight. Stop by the back table. I got a present for every one of you, except for you, Linda, because you're resigning tonight.
Okay.
But there will be a special use hearing next month
Okay,
for November. And it will be for a major home occupation, accessory structure. So all the information is in there, and unless somebody gets a hold of me and says, hey, I'm not gonna be here, we're not gonna have a quorum at next month's meeting, I don't want to waste taxpayer dollars getting it noticed and putting it out there. So if that's the case, please let me know. Otherwise, it's scheduled for the 6th of November at 7:00. I have not heard back on the campground. I gave them a list of additional information I'd like to receive back. And I have not gotten that back. And I do have a ZBA appeal that's going to be coming for the end of the month. I'll work on that tomorrow.
all right,
Any questions?
you handled the two that I had highlighted.
Yep.
Anybody else have any questions about the complaints or the land use permits data that she supplied?
I was gonna ask you, you had a land division that you denied. Would you
Mhm.
like to explain that?
I put the verbiage in my report. They had already done a split on it and they didn't have enough splits available to do any additional splits. And I think they wanted 4 or 5 more.
Yeah, okay.
So, I think, our assessor is really staying on top of how many splits are on a specific property now.
Okay,
Thank you
good.
very much. No,
Well, thank you.
Dawn
very
is
much.
doing
Okay,
things are being watched
good.
a little closer. And so,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, moving right along, chair's report. I put one thing in the packet today to share with everybody, and this is follow-up to this situation of we do not have a recording secretary. And I confirmed that there's no plans to put anything of that sort on the agenda for the board through October and November. So therefore, I did obtain the information on the information associated with supplemental compensation. So let me make sure I've got the right, here it is. It's on page 14 of your packet. It's called additional compensation. And so there is the proper personnel policy in place such that a person can apply to be compensated for doing extra duties outside their normal role. And so I know with what everybody is faced with, me stepping aside here this month, and some of the concerns that Mike Jacobson has expressed regarding his computer skills. I just want you guys all to be aware that you are eligible through the chairperson, and I can certainly approve that through October 23rd.
Or find
So,
somebody else to
as-
sit here and take minutes, correct?
As I'm not really referring to the minutes so much as I'm referring, but I offer this to people regarding the burden of the minutes, but also the burden of putting together the packet. It is a fair amount of time. I will say that based on my experience doing it for 5 months. And so I want you to be aware that I looked up, I don't think I included this in here. I did look it up in the budget approval documents from the end of March. The rate of pay is right around $20 or $21 per hour. And there's a standard timesheet that you can fill out. So I just offer that to you. There's no decision to be made, but my point is you don't have to do all this for free. Any questions?
Like a bonus.
Yeah, and in the future, Linda, are we going to, or is the board going to look at hiring a reporting secretary? So for all, and that would work for the board too, so everybody, just like Lois used to do.
Right, so the new board will have to determine that.
Okay.
And, you know, certainly I think the new board is very open to the fact that what we really need is our commission members to focus on the work we need them to do, not the administrative grind of doing, you know, the packet assembly itself is also very time consuming for the chair. And it's quite time consuming. So it's enough for the chair to put together the agenda, and our bylaws say the chair does the agenda, but quite frankly, Rachel and I think Kim Mangus prior to her and me as well were grinding it out, assembling all the documents. And that's just a lot of work to do that. It's very time consuming. So anyway, but I will be helping whoever is going to help do this the next month if they indeed want help. So any other questions about this? Okay, and this would also fit if you would do like a special project on the side, like, if you were
Subcommittees.
be on a subcommittee, yeah, you get paid for that. You can be paid for it. Okay. Moving along. I also in that, in the chair's report section, I also just gave you a copy of the master plan draft that I had sent out to everybody, and I had already copied your guys' email, but just for documentation that the master plan was forwarded, and I believe Ron put it on the agenda for the meeting next week for the board. All right, Heidi, it is time for you to give us your township board report.
I told them all the master plan was coming their way,
Okay.
and there was no excitement in the room, nothing.
Okay.
I just hope they read it. That's all I got.
All right, well, the big thing we need them to do is we outlined what their assignments were, so all we can do is kind of monitor that.
They were given a checklist twice. I'll give them another one on the next meeting.
All right, the next thing is, Carl, do you have any ZBA report to provide?
No, I don't.
Okay, good enough. It sounds like you have a meeting coming up, so you can update people next month. All right, moving along. Unfinished business. The next thing on the agenda is zoning ordinance update. So the first thing on here, Randy, was the legal review of the draft. So you want to provide us with an update?
Sure. Well, after the last meeting, we, planning commission voted to send this to Chris Patterson, our attorney, for review. It was sent to him on September 19th. Put together a fairly long email describing where we've been. We hadn't really had much contact with him since the work began, and I brought him up to date on what steps we've taken. The whole process of going through and having a surveyor with the legal descriptions, going through all the amendments, going through the reorganization, going through all of that in some detail, and asked him for, as the planning commission requested, a cost estimate for his review and number of hours and so forth. And he came back with a relatively large number in terms of, he was, I think, somewhat confused about the extent to which changes were being made in the document. And as you recall, when we had our meetings, we just tried to make the changes minimal, and
We didn't really make changes.
Yeah.
We just made corrections.
exactly. And so I explained that to him. Linda and I had a conference call with him, and we went through that, and basically then he is going to take another look at this and give us have an update. We have a meeting with him, a Zoom meeting next week, I think it is.
How much was his amount?
It
It's
was,
about
how
$10,000.
much?
I think it was about 10, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
It was a range, but I think it was around 10.
Sounds like an awful lot of money. We've done the work. We've told them what they want. He's just looking for legality and what we've said. That sounds like a lot of money to do.
Yes, and that's what really,
And
Threw
that
up a
was the
flag.
reason for the follow-up phone call.
yes, and I think,
I think he's misunderstanding what we wanted to do.
and I may not have been as clear as I could have been about the extent to which changes were made. I thought I said, we're trying to avoid substantial changes. We know that there's a lot of holes in the ordinance.
I
We'll
wonder
fix
if you
them.
used simple terminology like how it was put to us. You can remember we were making clarifications.
Yes.
Why don't, maybe you should put it to him in that simple form.
Well, I think he understands
He
now, so
understands now.
I think we're in a better place with him. And so, as I said, it's underway. He's going to review it. His focus is going to be on the zoning map, those those disclaimers, and then secondly, the ordinance itself and consistency with the zoning enabling act in terms of public hearing notices, amendments and all that. And, he had just went through the special use procedures and site plan review processes in the update that was done, I think, 2 years ago, maybe 3. And so that's one part of that, which shouldn't require any special effort on his part, since he just looked at that. And also the condominium material as well. So those are 2 big pieces of that process. So I feel better about what he's going to do here for us. And we knew this would take a couple months for this to happen. So it's underway and moving forward.
Yeah, so I think the big thing was to let him start going through it. And then we didn't want to give him a month before he gave feedback. We wanted to touch base with him again after 2 weeks. And so
Right.
it's good about doing that.
Yep. So he's got a copy of the marked up version, the clean version, the reorganization description, the list of all the amendments that we put together. He has even a copy of the master plan, and he has, I think, a few other documents as background.
Quite a bit to go over too.
It is, but if you're looking at 150 pages and say, review this for legal, conformity, I could see where he would get concerned. So tried to explain that most of the work was spent around reorganizing it, clarifying it, getting the amendments organized, incorporated, all that. So that's not really a legal issue in my mind.
Mhm. Well, yeah, the words are what they are.
Yeah, even though, I mean, we know
Doesn't, yeah.
words aren't where we want them to be, but they are at
Some
least
of
in the
them
right
aren't what
order
they
now.
want to be, but they are what they are.
At least the alphabet's in order this time.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, be.
All right. And then I had this general category of any other items pertaining to the zoning ordinance project.
Yes, and so in talking with Linda, it occurred to us that we have, I want to say, a lull in time here, but with Chris reviewing this, it's going to take some time. And so we could move ahead with one or more different zoning changes that we know need to be made. And so I put together, just reviewing what's in the master plan and put together a list of, pass that around.
Okay.
Is it one sheet per person?
Yes.
Okay.
So it'd be good if everybody would just kind of think about what comes to your mind. I think everybody's sitting around here, is probably sitting here longer than me. Through a lot of these meetings, what comes top of mind about some of the things that you remember coming up in discussion about, oh yeah, we need to get back to that. We need to address those things. There's been lots of comments like that as we've gone through this project, and you guys have been deeper into it than me.
Oh, exactly right. We don't, I guess, what I handed out here and what I have on the projector is simply what's in the master plan and what's major issues, but it's certainly open to what your priorities are for getting something done in the next couple of months here. We can, yeah.
I'd like to suggest maybe that Deb would take a look at this and maybe put
Her comments.
what she
on
thinks
there.
would be in top priority, maybe numbering. Will give us an idea what would help you the most.
She's gonna tell you 51 and 32 in the general ordinances. She's gonna do it.
All right, so. So when I look at this real fast, I remember Heidi saying that she was concerned about the private, we no longer have a private.
That's 32.
road
51
on the
is,
back of the sheet.
and 51. We put 51 on there.
Well, there's certain things that can be done by this body and there are certain things that cannot. And I am not 100% sure, but was the private road ordinance a general ordinance?
If it
Okay,
is,
so that's outside the purview of this.
yeah, so
That
30
is, it's not that it's not important, but
Right.
it's not within the span of this
right,
group of people.
but they might. the
I'm
board
quite
might
sure the
listen
current
to it.
board is not going to do anything between now and.
No, I tried. He didn't even want to hear about.
Okay, so let's not
November
waste time.
thing,
I-
so.
It's fine to have it on the list, but it should be labeled as a board item. So, and this is Randy's list, you know, you guys might have other things, like, I don't know if the sign ordinance is in here somehow.
It's not, it's.
Going through it, the signs were a big deal, is what I remember hearing.
Yeah.
It is not accurate. Doesn't comply with the state.
So I think the key here is trying to pick off a couple things that could begin being worked on.
And that we can work on in the meantime while this, Chris is reviewing through. You know, what he's doing. So I guess I just didn't, and it doesn't make sense to lose a couple of months here while
Yeah.
we're.
No, right.
So when you gave him the copy of our zoning ordinances, and we know that the sign ordinance is of sync with the law, if we did that and gave it to him while he's reviewing it, he could.
I don't think we could make a decision that quick,
No.
because there's a lot of issues that gonna come into that. I just think that's gonna be a time consuming.
It will, and that's, I remember mentioning that. When I was a few years ago as a consultant hired by the city of Coldwater to do their sign ordinance update, and it was. I think the contract was for $8,000. To just do the signs
Mhm.
and have it conform with Reed versus Gilbert. Which was a Supreme Court decision that said that signs have to be content neutral. You can't call them political signs, you can't call them real estate signs, because that implies the content of the message. You can only talk about temporary signs.
Can we look at what like Acme Township
Oh,
has?
yeah.
or-
We can,
Yeah.
and we certainly would, and there's models out there, then. And it's a good start. I wouldn't start with a blank piece of paper, but
So the question becomes, you know, really, I think the objective today is to really kind of hone in on
A couple of them?
a couple of them. And particularly, just like somebody mentioned earlier, what is causing Deb grief? Either lack of clarity or whatever. I remember her saying specifically a couple months ago, is that side yard setback to the eave or to the foundation? And I think she gave an example or something about somebody with a 4-foot over, you know, and, you know, causing issues, you know, because it wasn't clear, right? And you can't hold people accountable to a standard that's not clear.
Well, if you had your choice on the first two, which ones would they be?
Well, we're
Only
putting
brushing
that
up
as
here
far.
because anybody that's watching isn't gonna hear me
Right.
without me yelling. One is signs, I think is kind of important that we get on that one, because I think it's kind of been behind the 8 ball for probably 5 years. It's been inaccurate. And we just have a lot of people. I don't know if you guys have noticed the signage. I've seen them on rail cars. I've seen people just throw them up. I mean, I had somebody calling me trying to figure out how they can keep a billboard and lop off the rest of the land around it. Dwelling is a big issue for me.
So the dwellings.
Now, dwelling, are
What-
you
dwelling.
saying? we
Just so it's
fixed
dwelling
the
with no
dwelling
S.
Versus dwelling with an S, we fixed
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
right?
and that's wonderful. That was a concern. Personally, when I look at a structure, the eave is part of the structure, so I look at the setback to the eave. But I do have notes from a prior zoning administrator who wrote right on the plans when they were putting the eave into the setback, that the Whitewater Township ordinance is unclear and allowed it, instead of going back and saying, you need to slide this over 2 feet or a foot, and there was plenty of room on the lot to do so. But instead just signed it and wrote it right on the building plans and stuck it in the file. So then I had to go out and do a final inspection on it, and I'm looking at so I pulled the plans and, yeah. They build exactly where he said it was okay to build. It creates, it's difficult, so that would be helpful if it was just a little more clear.
Or define them.
Which ordinance is that? Which ordinance are you referring to?
It's the old Article 12 on what the setback requirements are in the various
Setbacks.
areas.
So this is specifically targeted at side yards.
Side yard setbacks.
So
This side yard setbacks, the setback is to the it's not to the foundation, it's to the actual eave of the structure. Because some people think if they build a barn and they put a big lean-to on the side, that it may or may not be considered something they need to worry about.
That's a great example. Thank you for that example.
Well, just, because people put a big eave out there, and if you've got a high enough roof line and you can do it, I mean, obviously, most people would put a post on the corner and that would be structural. Trying to think of other things that have come.
But the other thing that you mentioned quickly was defining dwelling.
Define-
Like having,
Defining a dwelling, I have people calling right now wanting to build a barn dominium. And they think they can build a pole barn with living space in it. And then later on, I want to build a house on the property. And I'm telling them that you build that barn with living space in it, it's got to meet the minimum requirements of 700 square feet in that barn as living space. But when you go to build a home on the same property, because you've got plenty of room, how do they convert that barn now into all barn and add a home to the property when I tell them this is your primary residence?
Yeah.
So
So it-
defining what that means. But I went to those geodesic domes and, they have an air fryer, a microwave, a hot plate, coffee pot and a refrigerator. Saying,
Yep.
yeah, well, they got a kitchen.
Mhm.
So it doesn't take much to create a kitchen. So does it need to be heated and cooled space? Does it need to be, does it need multiple ingress, egress?
Okay,
I don't know.
But it
That's-
sounds like this also ties into ADUs.
We don't have ADUs.
You don't have
today.
ADUs though.
A lot of people are trying to have them.
Everybody's wanting.
Everybody's wants one, everybody.
I have somebody has a small house on Elk Lake right now, and their builder came to me and said they want to build this ginormous garage and they want to put a bunk room in the upstairs of it. But in our ordinance definition, it says if they're sleeping, it's considered a dwelling. And you can't be sleeping in your garage or above your garage or in the bunk room above your garage. So it's whether or not you want to look at those definitions. I've seen a lot more definitions in some other ordinances. I read through a couple today. I mean, things that you wouldn't even think you would need, but are out there, but something to think about. I mean, if you honed in and you just wanted to start looking at your definitions, I mean, you could really kind of start with defining everything, and is it all inclusive? So that it's clear to anybody that reads it.
Some of them are crazy when you start
'Cause-
reading it.
Cause
Well, we
just like,
addressed a number of them, but
So
we didn't.
I'm looking and there is a definition of dwelling in here. Any building or structure or portion thereof legally occupied as the home, residence, or sleeping place of one or more persons. Well, that's currently what's in here. and
okay, so if I buy and rehab an old garage and I sleep in that building and there's room for me to put a house on that built property, can I do that? And then what do I need to do to that property? What do I need to do? What I'm trying to do is when they, people, save their money, they live frugally to save up to build what they really want. Well, how do you convert one structure to another?
Well, I guess I'm confused because it would seem like it'd be pretty easy. You just have to not make it a dwelling,
Yeah.
right? They
So how
can't
do you
sleep
do
there,
that?
They can't,
So do you take out the kitchen sink? Do you remove the dishwasher? Do you remove everything? Do you gut it?
Right now, we
I-
have a dwelling defined, so you wouldn't know what to take out or what to put
What,
in.
well, you know what?
It
What-
just says sleeping.
It
That's
says
all it
sleeping.
says. In Wisconsin, it says no, a stove.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's it.
I think that this started off with properly defined dwelling, and I think we've gotten into problem solving mode. I think the objective today is to determine what you would work on.
Yeah.
You know, and make progress on.
I think definitions would be a good place to work on too. Just
So
just
there's-
making sure, and what I'm thinking is just comparing them to some neighboring communities. And are we missing some things in our definitions that may creep into our area that we probably need to be able to identify? And some things you may not want to, like defining what a short-term rental is, maybe something to take into consideration too. Or maybe you don't even want to touch on it. I don't know.
Well, one thing too, the zoning map. This is zoning map issues. If we've got anything left on that to do, we should clean that up because that's at the attorney right now being reviewed. If we got some tweaking to do, well, we could tweak it. Get it
Yeah,
tweaked.
well,
Yeah, that's
every,
right. Those are those funny spots that we
Yeah.
need to address, right? And those are, that would be relatively simple and straightforward, right?
you know, I think we have a better idea of what a COPUD is now, especially along the corridor, 500 feet north and south. I think we need to also you know, things that keep me up at night. Okay, we just approved Dollar General, DG Markets, I'm sorry, DG Markets. But did we require extra trees along the roadway to help mask the front of that?
No.
That's where, and I'll take the blame for that because I did not realize that that overlay should be there. So I'm better educated today than I was then. But that,
Yeah, we could probably.
There is tree.
Yeah.
but that's where they're putting in that big retention pond. And so there's a retention
Yeah.
pond and there's some boulders going in the front. There's a couple trees along the drive, but not screening it along the roadway. And I don't know if you require trees in front of the vet clinics that have recently gone in. Because I think that would have, that COPUD would have come up during those as well, of adding just screening trees so that when people are driving down the corridor, and I don't know how many people heard this definition, but when you drive down the 72 corridor, you want to see beautification. You don't want to see business, business, business. And the whole reason the COPUD was there is so just like when you live on a lake, you don't want somebody to build a fence and put stuff out there. You want to have your view. And this is so you have your nice rural characteristical view.
Okay,
And so that's why that corridor is there to line
Okay.
trees along the roadway. That's why Heights over here has so many trees surrounding their structure.
Okay, so Deb, your point is this second item on the list, we could clarify this.
And-
and so it's more executable by the zoning administrator, because it wasn't clear, right? It wasn't
Yes.
clear to any of us.
But also cross-reference it in your site plan review that if this site plan review is within 500 feet north or south of 72, you know, please see section for the COPUD.
Okay.
You know, just to bring that to light somehow,
Right,
just to
because
cross-reference
basically
it.
We've missed the boat like.
Just on a couple of projects, yeah.
3 times and.
well,
not very-
Well-
I have a question about that because when I read this in the COPUD, I started back from Cook Road and I just started driving and I went up and down like probably 10 times. Some people, you can't see the business and some you can.
Right.
Some businesses were turned different so that their front doors are not facing. But none of the gas stations have trees.
I noticed that too.
So I got a little concerned and then you're also gonna have a problem down the road when you start looking at the COPUD because there's different things that have been put on different businesses. One guy can have this many pieces outside, this guy, he can't. So it's not equal.
But that's a project I have to get into and something I've talked to Josh, the fire chief on is he and I are gonna try to sync up. From a fire perspective, he needs a site plan for every business in the township. And I need to go through the same files and see a site plan, but I also need to see the ones that have a special use and what the conditions are. So he and I are gonna kind of team up this winter and see if we can help knock the combination off because I need like
Okay, but let's
Yeah.
get back to the.
but COPUD, doing a cross-reference on anything that's gonna be a site plan review along that corridor needs to make sure that it also meets the COPED, just to, I don't know.
If somebody came back with a special use and they already had the property, would you be able to add something you missed?
You can always ask. It's not that,
I mean, don't. it make
I've
it
talked
hard?
to a few of them and most of them are really tight for money right now. So, especially the vet clinics.
Well, too, when you build a business like the Dollar General, I mean, you build it so it's visible and you set it back and you have a sign. You don't want a bunch of trees blocking your sign.
Well, he's also putting in, trees on the property line.
Yep.
And I know that there are gonna be some interface, I think, with the boulders out front. So I think, look,
Right.
that retention pond, because they had to do so much moving of dirt, that's gonna be a unique situation. So, I mean, I could talk to him as
It's gonna look
it gets
nice, I think,
closer.
when you look at
The
the drawing.
retention pond is existing.
Yeah, I
No,
know.
they're not
It was-
digging it. It's there.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, but if
Yeah.
you look from the edge of the retention pond to the edge of the roadway, how much room is there to go start planting trees?
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
you gotta remember, I think it's 120 right away, I believe, isn't it, Randy? On 72 is.
150 usually.
Right away.
Usually 150.
Use 150.
It's pretty wide. I can't remember the number.
Yeah, so,
Well,
I mean,
figure
so
5
those trees wouldn't be within our jurisdiction anyway,
Right.
because
Well, he'd have to put them probably in the basin of the retention pond.
there goes your retention pond.
Yeah.
Now you just fill it full of roots.
Well, anyway, but all I'm saying is that's
All right.
one area that we
Yeah,
probably need.
I think we,
But I think that's given you guys enough things that,
Yeah, I
No.
think we got more than two there.
yeah, so, I've been listening to you guys, so I circled the update, the COPUD. And add a cross-reference site plan review, zoning map issues, that was one that was highlighted as kind of low-hanging fruit, something that you could address.
Definitions would be.
I had sign ordinance, I have defined dwelling, and then the suggestion was other definitions. Because I had defined short-term rental, somebody mentioned that. Setbacks, clarifying to the eve versus the foundation.
And you might want to get familiar with your.
So what do the
general-
rest do you guys think?
Get familiar with your general ordinances.
Yeah, it was, I know.
This is, the task here is to work on
Both?
zoning ordinance. update.
Only zoning. Okay, well, the only reason I brought that up is because we all sat here thinking that we were gonna get a public hearing on the golf course and we didn't. And the only reason why I figured it out was because when I was reading the general ordinances, they took the public hearing out of ag. So what bothers me is that we didn't have an attorney sitting at the table or anybody that knew our general ordinances well, and no pun intended, Deb, that could have directed us different because we were really waiting for a public hearing on the golf course. I was, weren't you?
I won't-
Think back, look at
I
the
didn't know anything
minutes.
about it.
Yeah,
Wait a minute, okay, wanna go back, Al, you were adamant, you weren't gonna, you were gonna participate whether you live on the 9th hole or 18th hole or whatever, you don't remember any of that? So, okay,
It was like.
With not a
it was like
public hearing.
Years ago.
yeah, Heidi, so,
but, okay, but the reason I'm bringing it up is because we sat here thinking we were gonna get a public hearing on the buildings.
I didn't,
I was pretty sure we were gonna have to have something, a 9,000 square foot building, you knew they weren't gonna have to come back?
but you got it on your drawing. They drew them on your
It
drawing.
should be a special use. But whatever,
Well, apparently it wasn't.
I'm just saying. That there, you know,
I think the question you're raising is whether that's acceptable situation or not. That's the question you're raising.
I'm also,
Because you're saying that a golf course is an acceptable use in the ag district, right?
but what's a golf course? A golf course to me is not a lodge and a bar and everything else. A golf course is defined to me as greens, tees, maybe a small building to check in and out. Maybe we need to look at the definition of golf courses and define it a little better, but I don't think we're gonna get another golf course, but Cook Road has a lot of property over there, but I'm just concerned that here they are building buildings and they didn't have nothing. They didn't come to, they gave us a plan and that was it. Well, I was pretty sure we were gonna have a public hearing, but apparently I read too much.
Well, yeah, because that, what they ended up putting in there is almost akin to a hotel / short-term rental, right? It's
Exactly.
rotating.
Exactly.
It's something that normally would require that. And I don't know, I haven't heard anything or concerns from neighbors yet, but they may not.
I'm just saying it was a big eye opener when I found out that there was no public hearing for that, but okay. But I'll have more comments when we get to the bylaws about that.
And I would also say there's maybe a aspect of what you're saying, Heidi, in terms of this giant project with all this housing and all this other stuff, and you know, how many fees were collected for this. That's another
Exactly.
thing that occurs to me. A little odd, okay. So back to this, I'm not sure how you want to make a decision, but I think we've had enough discussion on this, and I think, you guys should choose a couple to work on, so, what are you thinking? I mean, if you want, we can go around the table and each of you can say two that you think should be worked on immediately.
I think that definitely the sign ordinance should be one of them, because we ran into that just with a Dollar General mart,
Mhm.
you know, so that's one that I think that we should
Yeah.
have.
And is there another one, Keith, that you think?
Well, listening to Deb, it's,
Definitions.
I think definitions is probably the next thing we should look at.
So maybe you
Look
could,
at the-
could we cover definitions, cover the setback and definitions also? Is that possible? No, I mean, it within the umbrella of definitions. How you measure a setback, can that be in the definition? I don't know. Just ignore
How
it.
is that, where's the setback now? It's in an ordinance, right? Isn't it in?
Yeah.
12? Is that, no, 12's.
So you'd have to amend the ordinance.
Any of these are amendments to these, none of them are not amendments.
What would you rather see us hit, definitions or setbacks? Pick one.
Is there one that's easier and faster to do that you could just?
Oh,
it seems to
Probably
me
the
like
setbacks would be easy.
You can do that.
I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully 20 minutes.
Okay,
It'd be helpful to have a graphic in there to show that
Yeah.
as well, so that it's clear.
I think that's a good idea.
okay, all right, so,
Maybe you could
Pete,
do
we're
the,
still where, you got your second vote, what's your second vote? Unless you guys can all consent on this, you're welcome to do that.
well, I guess I would say second vote definitions, and if the setback is an easy thing and we have time to do it, we make that as number 3.
Mine would be definition, zoning map issues. We've got that just about finished. If there's anything we need to do, that would complete it.
I think we gotta do that anyways, right?
Huh?
I think we're doing that anyways, right?
Yeah, you
think-
gotta remove, what do you got, 2 or 3 weird things on there?
We do.
Where it just needs to be squared up with the property lines.
Seems like it'd be pretty easy to do that. So it's not only squaring them up, but there's those weird amendments for like that, there's that red triangle that's down there.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Those were the things I was thinking of.
That'd make a great gas station, wouldn't it?
Yeah, right.
Wreck fuel.
Okay, so I heard from Keith his strong opinion or his opinion as to what to work on. Carl, your thoughts?
I don't really care.
Okay, you'll work on anything?
I go over the items, but you know, I just go along with what other people think are the
Okay.
most important ones. I don't.
Heidi, how about you?
Well, first of all, make sure when you're looking at this sheet that MZEA is the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act. So if you're looking at any of those, you need to go to the Michigan Zoning. Why do you think this is funny?
Oh,
I'm talking to her.
yeah,
Okay,
it's,
whatever,
Yeah.
whatever.
Don't worry
no,
about it.
whatever.
Let's stay on task, folks, okay? Heidi, finish. You were saying we should go to the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act.
Correct, if you're gonna look at any of those and, cause what it says is better relate to. This is gonna rely to that same. No public hearing in ag when you get down to if you're doing anything on agritourism and everything. Everybody take a good look at that when you go through it, because. An event barn, don't you think that should be a special use? Well, you better look and see how your definitions are, and you better look at your zoning and see how that comes out. I'll look at that, but. And send you my comments.
Now that you mentioned agritourism, I think there was an issue that Randy, you pointed out before too, that there was some concerns about our terminology around farm market, farm stand.
Mhm.
Yeah, we definitely have problems in there in the definition of farm stand, farm market, and that relates to GAMPs and that relates to supporting
So
agriculture.
now if you're gonna do definitions, you gotta pull out all the GAMPs and everything else, right?
Mhm.
So
Oh.
Well, you know, I'm rotating off this, but I know that there has been a big increase in putting up, you know, farm related.
Oh, you noticed that too?
retail, and it's really, I think it's really important that we have our act together on that, because it's obvious that it's helping the farmers because they're investing significantly in these various roadside stands. And I mean, they're busy. When I drive by, they're busy. And so I don't know how big this lack of clarity, how big of a problem that could make for our farmers, but if it can make problems for them, we need to fix it. Because they're really expanding that. And I think it's just to try and make a buck, you know, they need that supplemental income.
Let me clarify. I think definitions is very important, but I'm not sure that is something we can do real quick. It's gonna take time, so maybe it is the most important item there, because everything else follows. If you don't get the definitions right, then you're gonna, so I don't know, but that may be a lot of work.
Well, and I think though that Deb did point out that there's certain definitions that we know are problematic that we should work on. And she pointed out the example of dwelling
And the setbacks,
and setbacks.
which is Article 12.
it would be, I was just gonna say it'd be useful if you had a list of definitions that were problematic and for your zoning decisions. If there's,
So I think she gave you two of them.
two,
already.
there's two, but is there more? I mean, if we're going to,
Sure, but if she'll come up with it.
Do you want me to go through the entire list of definitions and bring you a list of?
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I can do that.
But I think that shouldn't, I don't want to see you miss an opportunity to get something done in the next month. So
Okay.
Denise, do you have a vote on any of these?
Well, if setbacks were easy, you know, I'd like to just do that and get it done. Definitions, I think it's important, and also the sign ordinance. You know, if it's that's something that we could look at other township ordinances that have been updated and look at their verbiage versus our verbiage on a screen, and we could change ours. I did talk to someone else, and they said that they went through an ordinance and they went through it in 2.5 hours and just updated the whole thing at a meeting, and it was doable if you have everything that all the data and the original and what you want to change it to. So.
Okay. All right, Al, can you weigh in on this, please?
Yeah, I was thinking the zoning map and definitions, and I think the definitions, just like Denise was saying, would actually, if we knew which ones you wanted us to work on and had it on the agenda, then you could do your work at home to kind of think. What I do is I do just like you do. I look at other townships and then I go to the state's legal definition and see if they have something that's solid, you know. And they do have some stuff on farmers and farm markets. So, and then if we all brought that and compared it, I have no doubt that we couldn't come to the you know, we like those and those in
Mm-hmm.
the meeting, and actually. If we had, don't try to get too much, but what if, let's say if we had 3 or 4 definitions, and we're gonna try to fix this. On the agenda next week, I think we could do it,
Okay,
if we just pick out the ones that we want and. We could work on them.
Randy, how about you weigh in on this now? You've heard what everybody said. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is a small window of time to get something quickly done. I guess I would, if there's interest in going ahead on the signs, I would caution you that it is not going to get updated to the point where you can claim conformance with Reed Gilbert with the Supreme Court decision, because it's very complicated, and I would guess it's probably 6 months worth of discussion on how you regulate not only signs, but banners and temporary signs and how long, and it's a rabbit hole. And to do it completely, if we're touching it up, if you're just saying, what's the sign, what's the maximum size sign in front of Dollar General, that's one thing. If it's a complete revamp, it is 6 months of discussion about signs.
Well, sounds to me like this, the planning commission probably needs some education before they embrace that, just so they know what they need to know. before they start.
It basically came down to the Supreme Court saying that signage is a form of speech. And you can't regulate the content of signage.
So you
And
could
that's-
have a store FU on the road and it could say that.
Well, there's political speech, and that's protected at a higher level than commercial speech. So there's a lot of layers to this, and then there's the signs that are political, but they're not necessarily related to an election, like end abortion, you know, or something like that. So
Just to
there's
get in
just,
the mindset, you're gonna have to have major examples.
there are, so you have to be careful on how you regulate signage. And then there's the issue of billboards, and we're the home to a bunch of billboards here because I think our sign ordinance was probably pretty weak. I mean, I don't doubt that we got to get into that. I'm just saying that I just want to caution you that if we're into it in a substantial degree, it's 6 months.
It's gonna take some time.
So, yeah,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think what we're looking at is you've got 2 months here where you've got the master plan out. Hopefully going out for review. That's like 63 days. And then you've also got this attorney review on the zoning ordinance. So there's an opportunity to work on a few things. So I've been listening to you guys and keeping track of who voted for what. It seems like there's general interest in going and updating a handful of definitions, maybe not doing all the definitions, but zoning in on certain definitions to make sure that they're clear. So that's what I think I heard from you guys. I also heard several people that said they thought that we need to fix the zoning map issues. And do we have consensus that that's what we think we want to do? Because once we think we want to do those, then we got to talk about how you work on them. So does that, I'm looking around the table, is that consensus to kind of target certain problematic definitions? And I would lump in that little thing with the setback. I think that's an easy enough task.
Yep.
I would consider
Yep.
that defining a setback. And
I agree with that.
so defining the problematic issues and then the zoning map issues.
I put those 3 things on the list, that what Keith was saying, what was that? With the zoning map, the setbacks,
Yeah,
setbacks, and then.
setback,
That would be a definition.
That
zoning
should be
map,
definite.
and some of these definitions, so.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So the question, because Randy only has so much time in a given month too, we can't just assign him to do all the work. So how do we attack this? What would you recommend, Randy?
I was going to add one other point here too that wasn't on the list, and that is we had 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, we had a discussion about the setbacks on Supply Road. That
Oh, yeah.
it's 100, it's 150. I think everyone agreed that was excessive, no one's quite sure where that number came from. We actually did some analysis of that and showed what that meant. that would be another easy fix here too, if you want to entertain
So
that.
how many properties does that really affect though with our?
I know it it affects the beginning of our subdivision. To the front lots up there, half their property they can't use.
Oh, wow.
And that was a variance issue, wasn't it, Carl?
Yeah,
That was
Yeah.
denied.
yeah.
With the, we went through a lot of that. And one of the comments, I think from our supervisor, was that Grand Traverse County wanted that 150 feet setback. And I think Ron's opinion was he wasn't about to agree to that. And I don't know,
We-
Well,
whether, that matters or not.
Well, it's in the ordinance, so
It would need to be thoroughly investigated. So again,
Is that
I would say,
complicated?
you guys, we've been talking about this for at least 20 minutes. And so a decision needs to be made as to agreeing on the focus and operationally, what is the objective to get done in by the next meeting? Or what information will be available at the next meeting for a decision. So we have limited resources, so.
Can I ask a
Please,
question
thanks.
real quick to Randy? Randy, if I wanted to go investigate that setback, would I start with the road commission?
Mhm.
if you wanted to investigate setbacks,
No,
Supply road.
if I went on Supply Road.
okay, so it is 150 feet now.
Hmm? I
No
was
one,
just
no
gonna,
one's quite clear on why it's 150 feet.
I was gonna go find out why from them. So,
Because Whitewater Township put that in their zoning ordinance, that's why it's 150 feet. The question is, why did we do that? And does that make any sense? And it doesn't seem to make sense.
okay, I'll go find out.
Hey, check with the township next door and see if there's.
Yeah,
Acme,
great idea.
check with Acme. I can do that right now.
Check
so.
Supply Road going all the way in, maybe
Yeah.
Grand Traverse County thinks that may be a 4-lane road at some point,
Yeah,
planning for expansion.
I'll look in Union too then.
I would check that corridor and see if all
Okay.
of the corridors like that may help.
Yeah.
clarify.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
you already know the answer.
Well, at one time that was considered an environmentally sensitive area. And that was suggested that might be the reason, but that was dropped out of the ordinance later on. So
okay, I think I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think we're off track, okay?
I'd like to
So
make a
you
suggestion.
need to make, yes, does somebody have a?
I'd like to make a suggestion that if Deb could get us a list of definitions, pretty quickly and just email them to us. I think we
Why-
could all start working on them. So
why
it-
don't we make a list of the 5 or 10, whatever, a small number of definitions that we'd like to get done first, and then we can all go research that and look at other townships and come back at the next
Yeah.
meeting and
I think that's what.
Right,
Dave
we'll
is
divide
saying.
the list
He's just
into 7.
suggesting that Deb has a really good view of which ones are causing
Yeah.
confusion with residents or disputes or whatever.
And then
Yeah.
if we could all take a look at those and be ready for the next meeting,
Okay, so
that would be my suggestion.
Deb, you
Yeah.
can do that? And work on that first? Is that what you guys are thinking? Work on that
If I
first?
email that out by the 15th, does that give you enough time?
I
Yeah.
would say the sooner the better on
Yeah.
that. if you
Yeah.
can. I think they'd rather have the top 5 immediately within a week as opposed to waiting 2 weeks to get 10.
Mhm.
So the top 5, what it is today, and then options under each.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Clarity.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Clarify.
if you get 5 of them done next month, I
So
think
what
that
the
would be
definition and
a
what. the
good
process.
job.
I think
Yeah.
you do a public hearing at the next month's meeting, and you'll probably have a public hearing at the December meeting as
Okay.
well.
All right, but we got.
5 is doable.
Okay, and so you guys are saying we're gonna work on definitions that are causing problems. Deb's gonna supply a list as soon as possible by email, and each person can do some investigation. And what about the zoning map? That was also real high on the list. Do you think, Randy, could you help us with that concurrently? Maybe that would be something that you would work on.
Yeah, I think just important to know that the sequence would be important. We've got to have the first zoning map adopted first,
Right.
and then we'll amend it.
Okay.
Okay,
So.
okay.
So we're
So
gonna-
what do you
we're
want to
gonna-
call this, zoning map corrections?
Yes, that's a good name for it.
Okay, and then the second item that'll be on the agenda next month, other than an update on the legal review, would be definition discussion. Okay. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
All right. Moving along, master plan draft review. We already talked about that in your packet on page 16 is a note that we sent off to the board. And I was told that they're gonna put it on the agenda. Any other discussion or questions on that? Okay, the next thing is under new business, I itemized several items. Related, A through D are all about bylaw discussion. And so the first one, as relates to successor to the office of the vice chairperson. So if you can turn to your bylaws and look at page 3 in the bylaws. Can we turn the projector off, please?
You want the light back?
I don't need the light on. I just need that spotlight on my face. That's good. Now I've got spots in front of my eyes. Okay, so if you look at page 3 of your bylaws. Under vice chairperson, it says the vice chairperson, which is Mike Jacobson, shall act in the capacity of the chairperson in his or her absence in the event the office of the chairperson becomes vacant. The vice chairperson shall succeed to this office for the unexpired term, and the PC shall select a successor to the office of vice chairperson for the unexpired term. So basically, I need a volunteer or a motion nominating somebody to take over the role of vice chairperson.
Yeah, would you be interested?
I would, just to help out until we can get, this is a unique situation, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any?
So I nominate, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Go ahead. Is there anybody else interested? I just want to throw this out. I know that you're all jumping out of the chair.
Yes, was, so.
Okay,
I won't be here, so don't look at me.
all right. All right, go ahead, Keith. Proceed.
I nominate Al Keaton for vice chair.
So that's a motion to appoint Al
Yep.
Keaton.
Is there a
as vice
second?
chair. I would second.
Good.
Okay, how about we just do a voice vote on this, which I think is fine.
Okay.
All those in favor of having Al be the vice chair for the unexpired term, replacing Mike Jacobson?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Nobody opposed. Do you need us to help you with the wording of the motion?
I think I
You
get
got
that. Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you. That was just really quick. Thank
Yeah,
you.
but I'm just wondering, can you do a voice vote? Putting someone.
Yeah, because we're not making a resolution. I've been reading up on that.
Okay, good. And you read the Zoom ones too? Cause they're different, but okay.
All right, timing for officer selection and tenure. So on the same page in section 2A. Because of this whole situation coming up and the fact that we also have people's terms expiring on the PC, which you always have every year, you'll have 2 people expiring. I wanted to revisit this section to a selection and tenure. At the first regular meeting each April, the PC shall select a chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary. All officers shall serve a term of 1 year and be eligible for re-election. Okay. the newly elected officers assume responsibility at the next regular meeting. So back in the January timeframe, and I think most of you were here with the exception of Denise. This used to read January. It got switched to April to align with the fiscal year, if I remember correctly.
That is
And
correct.
everybody agreed to that. But I think we're kind of looking down the road at a situation here again. Where when we have things in April, this is just my opinion, it kind of creates a situation where you could have this situation, like me leaving, that was a special circumstance, but you could have this situation happen again where he could not be reappointed, and you're gonna have this problem again, and you're gonna be the chair this time.
Yeah.
I have a minor correction to what you said.
Okay, go ahead.
Not everybody agreed to that.
Oh, okay,
There was
Thank
one
you.
dissenter.
okay. All right,
That was me.
Okay.
I didn't think we should have changed our bylaws for a special situation with Rachel.
right, okay.
You know, we could have handled it, you know, within the bylaws as they exist.
But we wouldn't have had a quorum.
But
There's actually, no, you had a quorum because you had a quorum to make this change.
No, but what I'm saying, one of the reasons why we switched it to April was because we might not have had a quorum because of vacations.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so, but there's another part of this. If the PC is unable to elect officers, and don't worry about that, it says the month April. If the PC is unable to elect officers, which would be due to lack of quorum, those officers whose terms as officers have expired and who remain as active members of the PC shall continue until the
Right.
elections are held. So you've got kind of an out there. I don't know if that text was always there or not, but what I would suggest to you is I think that with having a misalignment between the timing of election of officers and the appointment to the PC, I think you've set yourself up for kind of a lot of kind of messy situations where you have this shuttle of you're missing a secretary, you're missing a vice chair. And when I read the bylaws, the only thing that it addresses is if the chairperson, it talks about if the chairperson steps aside, the vice chair backfills, and then you must agree who the new vice chair is. It doesn't even talk about what to do if you lose your secretary. And right now, with the current state of affairs, that's a big deal. And so what do y'all think we should do?
We would be in the same fix. Everybody, the term is the term for whatever your term is. Now Mike's term's coming up. I think he said in December.
It is.
It is. And, but I think it would come down to when the terms end. But like you said, the terms all end in December.
They all, everybody's
Yes.
appointment to this committee, to this commission always ends in December.
I see a big
31st.
problem there, yes.
So your
I see a big issue.
thing is to fix or make that
I
even.
just think it needs to go back to
Back.
January so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
way this is intended to work, and I have discussed this with Ron Pop and reviewed, how has it worked in the past? The way it is supposed to work is new appointments are supposed to be presented to the board every December. And they are approved or disapproved. In most cases, they are approved. And then in January, you convene at the January meeting, you determine your meeting schedule and you elect your officers. That's the way things are normally set up in various groups.
the situation with an expired term is in.
It's in there too, right?
It's
I
in
did
there.
read that.
I was surprised to see that. So, that says if the old person can stay in
They-
the job until they
Until
appoint a
there's
new person.
sufficient people, but
Yeah.
the system is supposed to work with
Right.
replacements. And
Yeah.
yes, it is true. Some people continue to serve.
Yeah.
With an expired.
And you're
term,
supposed to always reapply.
if they're willing.
Yeah.
And yes, Heidi's right on that. You're supposed to turn in a new application if you want to be reappointed to stay. So really the question in front of you is, do we leave this as is? Which means, you know, obviously, the concern would be with Mike and, you know, this situation. Or do you switch it to January? I personally think it would be cleaner if you had it in January,
Yeah.
but it's up to all of us to make that decision.
Well,
I agree with you on that.
what, to go back to January?
Yeah,
My only
Yeah,
problem
makes-
is you're
no.
losing,
I obviously agree with that.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Heidi.
not important, because there's something, you gotta plan for what if. So we've already been in this predicament, that's why we changed it. But now you have to realize that you're losing. He's up, I'm gone. That'll take a month or two to get the new replacement on for me.
I expect to nominate somebody.
Well, I understand that, but
by
it's
the
not
end
gonna,
of November.
it's right, so that's December. But what I'm saying is, are you gonna be able to appoint the people you're leaving quick enough so that they could take place of in officer elections also? That's what I'm saying. You're gonna probably run out of them. You're gonna probably be a month and a half behind. So if you need
So
more
the only thing-
officers, I'm just saying, maybe leave it, revisit this. I mean, definitely revisit it to go back to January, but maybe revisit it in April and see if you have full. You know what I'm saying? You want more people because you want to have officers.
problem is, I
I have
think
a
we,
question. How many are we losing this December? We'll lose Mike, and are you gonna stay, Denise?
I am.
Good for you, good for you.
But she has to reapply and be reappointed, so you can't
We don't-
make,
Yeah, I have to be approved.
I get that, so you
Yeah.
can't put her in the equation right now.
Well, we gotta put some there for now.
Yeah,
You're
So
losing
really-
one,
Oh.
2, 3, 4 members.
Heidi is correct that you shouldn't try and make this decision just. I think what I am raising the issue is you have a misalignment
Mhm.
and a situation where you could end up having this situation of having to reshuffle your chairman, vice chair, and secretary more than once a year with the timing that you've set up. That's the point of what I'm suggesting. So,
I understand that. but-
but I think when you try and tailor it to a specific situation of what's happening in a given year, obviously this is an unusual year.
Exactly, but right now you're only gonna have 1, 2, 3 of the same people sitting here. Now, they only elected, you only have a choice of 3 people. Because they still gotta reapply. So you still have the same people at the table to take officers. What I'm saying is, if you change it, I don't really care what you do, but you're pinched. You need another like 8 weeks to make that happen. Because
I
once
think
you
I have
get,
every intention of appointing people in the month of December such that they would sit
well,
for
I
a January
understand,
meeting.
well then, Linda, if you know you got people to sit in the seats, then go for it.
I-
If you don't,
I
then I
didn't
wouldn't
say
do it.
that.
That's what I'm saying. You have to plan for what if. You could be
Well,
in the
and
same
it says
situation.
people will continue
yeah.
if you're unable,
right,
you know? I mean, I will do everything on earth to make sure that there's.
I
at least
under,
a quorum.
right, I understand that, but I'd revisit it after you got everybody new at the table, but you can go ahead and do it now. But you're gonna probably have the same situation in another
So
4
wait,
months.
let me just make sure I understand what you're saying. So you're saying leave it as is and it's not urgent to make this decision now. You could make this decision in December.
Or February or April, depending on,
So
because
this
right
is-
now you're just gonna keep putting, you're gonna have the same head blocks. No, I don't wanna be this, I don't wanna be that, I don't wanna be. Now you're gonna have new players, so now you got a little more different expansion of people volunteering to do things, but.
Okay,
here's my thought on that. I agree with you, and I think we should move it back to. Is it January?
yeah.
Mhm.
And the reason why is because it does say in here, so if come January, we sit down and there's 3 or 4 of us and one of us can't. Or, you know, for some reason, or 2 of us did not want to take that role on. That's where we can't decide on and it just moves to the next month. It's written right in here that we can do that. So it's not that you have to do it in January, it's if you can do it in January. And if you can do it in January, that's when you want to do it because then you're starting the new year.
Correct.
So I think moving it back to January gives us the option then to do that in January. Or if there's not enough of us, we wait until February, March. But if we don't change it now, we can't do anything in January.
No, you could
That's
change
my
it
thought.
in November, you could change it in December. You can change your, as soon as you vote on it, it's official.
I think Heidi's point is what's the rush? You could make this decision at the November or the December.
I just don't wanna see you guys in the.
Oh,
seat.
When there's.
you mean
Yeah.
this decision?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to plan for
Okay.
what if, and
Yeah.
you can't plan for what if because Denise could change her mind tomorrow.
Okay, I think we've had enough discussion. So does
Okay.
somebody want to make a motion at this point? Or would you like to defer this to a meeting in the future? So does anybody want to make a motion to make a change? Let me
I
ask
will
that
make a
question.
motion.
Okay, go
I'll
ahead.
make the motion to change it back to January, the way it originally was written
Oh,
for.
second.
Okay, so write that down.
Yep.
You
Get my glasses so I can see.
And now, when this goes back to the board and I tell them, I'm just gonna tell them and then I'm gonna walk out the door. But whatever.
I think they will understand why.
No, they don't like the way every time you
Doesn't
change
matter.
something, they
Okay.
get beat.
I think we're off track. Okay, so there's a
That's
motion
what's-
made by Keith and seconded by Carl to change section 2A. From the timing of April to January.
And you should probably.
Does this have to be a,
That had to be a roll call.
Yeah.
Let's do a roll call vote on this
Yeah.
one,
Did
all
you
right?
question?
because I think there's.
You're changing the
there's not
bylaws, you have to
uniform.
do, you have to
What?
do.
Linda?
Yes.
I was just curious when people apply, if you know someone's leaving, and are they supposed to give a 60-day notice like you did for leaving, or is that just for the chair?
You gotta give 30, I think.
30?
I don't even
Um,
think you gotta give any.
I would tell you to read the bylaws. I believe the bylaws say
60.
60
Number C, Denise,
for
one C.
everything.
For everyone, okay. So if we gave 30, then you could get an application
know,
and
now
and
this-
do an approval.
I
in
would
that.
also say, that 60 days is preferred, it
Yeah.
doesn't always occur.
But that would give you time to know that someone was leaving, and then you, other applicants could be considered in December and approved for January.
We have so many openings right now. We're
Yeah.
really welcoming everybody to apply.
Yeah.
And
Sorry.
my question on that too was if somebody, like, let's say Mike is coming up in December and he knows let's say he says I'm not gonna continue. It'd be nice if they would have. To let the board, let the PC know that before 60 days, or rather than come up right at the end and say, well, I'm done now. It'd be
Right.
nice to.
Well, he's
Right.
not here,
Courtesy.
he's not here in October, there's 30.
Yeah.
November is 60.
Yeah, he's gonna be here in November.
Okay, well,
Anyway, okay.
all right, so there's a motion and a second on the floor. Ready for roll call? vote?
Ready.
Go ahead, Keith.
Al,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Keith, yes. Mike is not here. Linda,
Yes.
Heidi,
No.
Denise.
Yes.
Oh, you
think
it's funny, Carol? You think it's funny that I voted no? You just voted yes for the opposite reason you voted in the first place, but okay.
5-1, motion carries.
All right.
All right, thank you. All right.
Now to January.
Yep, all right. And I will take on the task of typing that up and putting it in the packet for next month. So y'all have a copy. Education was the last section I would like to go.
Oh, wait a
through
minute,
again,
wait a minute. But we didn't even discuss or what I put in this part
Because
of,
you're item E. You're item E,
Okay,
we're on
sorry.
item C.
sorry.
It's all right. All right, so this is on page 8 of the bylaws, so if you can turn a few pages over. I added discussion of this because Carl brought this up in his email. So our current section 8, it just is one long, 2 sentences. Members shall complete one training/educational program each year. Training may be provided when available at regular meetings of the PC by other PC members, the planner, or the zoning administrator, and will qualify as acceptable training. Additional training from professional or educational organizations is also encouraged. So,
I think you should add citizen planner.
okay. Other thoughts that people have as far as training for the role?
I like the way it's good, so.
You think you're fine with the way it is?
I would think a new person should sit down and take citizen planner immediately, but just my opinion.
I really think, I'm sorry, okay. I really think this does need to be redone. I think that it should be everything that we have found that has been valuable to us. We should come up with a list so that somebody new can come in here and go through that list. And
Like read the
You
general
know?
ordinances, read the zoning ordinances, what's
well, you know,
important?
basically, this is to help. This should be to help anybody else new coming in. And it doesn't tell you anything.
I believe Acme Township requires members of the PC to be citizen planners, to have that certification. And it's really not hard to do.
Right.
You do it online. And I think I read that right in their master plan, I believe it was.
Other thoughts? Denise, I know you've been with us a short time. Do you have thoughts on this?
Well, I would recommend citizen planner as a basic, reading the ordinances. I mean, you can write that in there, but they should know that.
Yeah.
Uh,
You can get most of the stuff right out of that MTA handbook.
Yeah,
It covers everything in detail and gives examples. And then when you take the citizen planner course, it's really easy to pass it because you already read these books. And
Then that should be in here. The handbook should be.
The
in here,
handbook
and-
should be in, the planning
Yeah,
enabling
yeah.
book, I mean, we didn't even have those books till I brought them to the
Right.
table.
Right,
So,
and I would say that, and
yeah, that's true.
Denise, let me just ask you a question. You were the last you were the last person that came on. I was the one before you that came on.
Mhm.
It just so happened I knew Rod Revant and I knew there was the existence of all these books. And so I called him and asked him if I could please have his books.
Mhm.
Were you given all of the book resources when you took your position?
No, I was not given any books when I took the position. I already had them from trying to make public comments.
I asked her what book she wanted and she said,
Yeah.
I already got that one, I already got that one, I
But,
already
yeah.
got that one.
So that's
think
how
the
I,
only thing she's missing is general ordinances because she hasn't made copies yet.
well, I'm waiting for the
But it should
the
be-
short version here.
That's your zoning
that's the zoning
ordinances.
ordinance.
those
Oh,
are
the general,
different.
yes, I don't have the general.
Huh?
I'd be.
But-
happy.
My book's still sitting, Denise.
Yeah, so one of the thoughts I was having about this, when you become a planning commissioner, you're supposed to be getting a laptop and issued to you, and I don't know if anybody's used theirs, but on that issued laptop, it would be nice if there was the general ordinances, the
Good point.
master plan already on there so that you had all that reference material.
Mhm.
I don't know if the board has even completed the migration from on their, what is it, .org to,
No,
No.
it never happened.
Nope.
oh, it's not going to happen?
Nope,
Oh.
not happening.
Oh, okay. So we don't have to worry about that. But it would be nice if on the laptop you're given, if all of the basic zoning ordinances, general ordinances, master plan, a copy of the master plan, everything was on there already
Mhm.
for you. And, but that's going to take organization, by one person or two people to do that for the new person.
That is actually fairly easy.
We tried to do an SOP.
Don't,
and
you don't have to
nobody
put
did.
it on the
It's on the
computer.
website.
You put it on a flash drive.
And then just
So
give it.
as a
every-
new member comes, they get the flash drive and that would have everything on it, every book that they would need. Um,
Mhm.
Then you don't have to buy books.
yeah.
And I think I
You still should have books.
I think I have, I think I have. a couple
Well, the
of
ones that
them
are
on my
available
computer.
too, you could put on the flash drive.
Mhm.
And then the ones you
Okay.
can't, you know.
Yeah,
All right.
So
that would be
so
great.
Back to this
That's a
thing.
good idea.
Okay.
You guys have voiced opinions. We've got everything from, Al was happy with it the way it is. Some of the rest of you want to add more detail here so that there's a roadmap. And I would say that I have used all of the books that I was given from time to time. And then
Mhm.
added to it, not included in my pile of stuff, at least I don't think I had it, was copy of the zoning enabling act and the planning enabling act, which Al, you gave me one or both of them. And so I've got those, and so, you know, I think documenting this, maybe this is a continuous improvement thing that you can add to a future agenda, or if somebody wants to volunteer to draft a new section 8. I don't think we can do that right now in today's meeting.
No.
So does somebody want to volunteer to work on that, outside the meeting to kind of just itemize what should be the educational materials that a planning commissioner should have? And I think that's what I heard, a list of the education materials and recommended trainings.
I could do I could do something this weekend and email it to y'all, just something to look at.
Yeah,
Hey,
and
go
Add
back,
it
you know,
to
that
the
book
next
we
agenda.
started with, they
Yeah.
were gonna make an SOP.
Yeah.
I think there's.
Yeah, I did it for 911, so I could easily do
What,
just a,
there was a comment in the public forum about General Ordinance 26 and how there had only been one copy available under lock and key, but didn't we all the planning members get copies of both
have
that
one,
and
yes.
the general, and all of the,
Yes, you have a general ordinance book.
and we also have all the amendments in the
Yes.
book. So we all were supposed to have those down. Apparently they aren't aware of that.
Oh, it was in the ZBA hearing, copy of ordinance 26 was.
Right, but the
It's also
point
been
is,
in our
yes, you
packet
do
3
have a general
times.
ordinance book, because I don't know exactly who did this work, but I know this work occurred in the last year and a half, where you put together those giant books that are also
Yeah.
on the
Mhm.
bookshelf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which I don't.
All right, good enough. All right, so we'll carry over this discussion of education to next month's meeting.
Yep.
That'll go to unfinished business.
I'll just send you a little email with
With, can I make an additional comment on that?
Okay.
We discussed a couple of meetings ago about becoming individual members of MTA.
Mhm.
And I don't think we decided that we would. It was
the
75.
Michigan Planning,
It's Michigan Association of Planning.
Michigan
Michigan
Association of
Planning.
Planning.
Okay.
And I
it
think
was-
we talked about some of us were rotating off, so it was inappropriate for me, certainly.
Okay, but did the rest of us, I mean, I don't know if we,
Like-
it was $75 a person a year or something. But I maybe add.
It was, I think we
into that.
figured out it was less expensive for people to individually sign up
Yeah.
than to do a group membership, if I recall.
So maybe that could be on the list, become a member of whatever the,
Yeah, I was going to suggest if Keith, if you include me on that list, I'll have some number of
definitely.
resources to give
Okay.
you, put in
Definitely,
there
yes.
too.
Okay. All right, are there any other bylaw changes that anybody feels we need to make, as long as we're scratching away at this?
Need to make sure to ordinance, well, I guess I'm next.
So because we're gonna look at the education thing. Are we gonna hold making that change to January so you can do it in one revision to the bylaws? Is that what you're thinking? Okay, all right.
Hold the,
So instead of doing it twice,
right,
that you'll revisit that and combine the change to January on the selection and tenure section with an update to educational requirements, and you'll do it.
Still gotta vote on that again then.
we
Gotta
already,
vote on
So
it.
we
you'll-
already voted on it.
You'll vote on the section 8 at next month's meeting, right?
Yes,
Okay, got it. Just making sure.
What was, you said a member of, what was it?
Member of the
Michigan Association of
Planning
Planning,
Association.
MAP.
I think I am, as I signed up for something a year or two ago, and I think as a result of that, I also got a membership because I get their email every month.
Do you get a doesn't it have a magazine too?
Mhm.
There's a magazine every 2 months.
Yeah, I get that, and it seemed like
Is
when
that
I,
Michigan Planner or is it something else?
when
No,
I,
it
when
looks
I
like
signed up for a course or something, I thought maybe they said as a result of being a member of the planning commission, you're automatically a member.
I think you are, Carl, because I get
Yeah.
that too. I get a.
Yeah.
email
I
from
think we are members.
That's MTA, Heidi.
Yep.
That's not
Okay, so
MAP.
maybe you guys can circle back to that next one. Do you want that added to the agenda or not?
No.
The Michigan planning thing, or I think you guys can figure that out on your own. Go check your mail. All right, moving on. So, no other bylaw changes that anybody has that they want to mention or they can think of? Okay. So that's a 0. Okay, Heidi, you handed out general ordinance 42. So what do you have here?
Well, this is what governs you. So before you guys really
I got this at home too.
change all your bylaws, you might want to read this first.
Okay, well, I have already
But
read this.
what
one,
I'm, okay. But you and me are probably the only ones that have. So, what I'm trying to get you guys to understand here is I start my homework just like I'm not sitting here. I start my homework like I'm a private citizen and the question is, oh, bylaws. Okay, so what governs the bylaws? Oh, my general ordinances. So then I went to my general ordinances in the front half, which tells you what every ordinance is and when it was approved. And you can pull out your ordinance. So I give you all copies of ordinance number 42. So what you want to do now is you need to read this and then make sure your bylaws are kind of really close to this, because if you're going to change your bylaws drastically, you have to go to the board and change the ordinance, or you have to ask them to. But one works off the other, so you're governed by the ordinance and the bylaws are your laws to follow. So we seem to forget that we have to start with what governs us and then look at the laws, or you can go
There
backwards.
was a Michigan Enabling Act. I can't remember which one it was in MCL. I think it happened. That describes, like Heidi was saying, what.
125380.
Supposed to, what your bylaws are. And one of them says, it said, you shall adopt your bylaws. So it's, when it says you, it means the planning commission shall
Right.
adopt the bylaws,
Right,
period.
yep,
So we adopt our own bylaws.
yeah.
right.
Right,
And they don't have to be
This
approved by
does not-
anybody. We adopt our own.
That's correct. This does not tell you what your bylaws have to be, but
Nope.
it does have information in here about voting on
Yes, yes.
major stuff.
yeah,
So,
it tells you when
Let
you
me
have to,
just call to your attention, one major thing that's in here. And it says here, I think it's under voting. You can see.
Is it? the-
Yes, it says right here under page 5, the commission shall have their powers and duties as set forth in this legal thing, planning and enabling act. So that's exactly what we just said out. But there is a thing in here about a 2/3 vote
yep,
Yeah.
of the total.
it's on page number 4,
Thank you.
bottom.
I know.
There's all kinds of different ones. You have to do There's ones you gotta make annual appointments, 1/3 of the membership of the commission. You guys really should read this, because when you start reading the other ordinances.
So let's focus in on this. This is what I wanted that I was talking about. This is the thing all of you need to know. An affirmative vote of 2/3 of the total number of seats for members, which is 7, to a vote of 2/3 of 7. Regardless if vacancies or absences exist at a given meeting, shall be necessary for the adoption of any master plan or amendment to the master plan. So that's relevant to what you guys are working on right now. So just, you know, as you get ready in the January, February timeframe, you need a really big number there. So that would be
5
14
people?
divided by 3.
5 people. Need to have 5.
If you only have 5 sitting here, everybody's gotta be in agreement.
That's correct.
So that's
that-
actually in the planning act. But that's not something
Yeah.
that Whitewater came up with. That's
Oh.
a-
No, this is
So they
in the
just
planning
restated
act and
it.
they just stated it in
They
here.
restated it.
Well, that's kind of,
Okay, good.
when you read if you start reading some of the ordinances, some of them you're gonna read and go, well, that's not even a complete sentence. Where am I supposed to go from here?
Okay.
So, well, we have to make sure that when you're changing something, that you read this first, because you have to stay within these guidelines.
Wouldn't be bad, like Heidi said too, if like this here, I have it planned in Nathan's right here. And it wouldn't be bad when we put that on our bylaws, we could put like the statute is 125.3504.
Yeah, but I think.
And
it's
it'd
in
be
here.
nice, put it there and that would.
Right.
That would clarify.
I think that's in here already.
But I don't think on
Yeah.
ours, I don't know if we noted that.
It does say at the first page of the planning commission bylaws, it says, as outlined in the Michigan Planning Enabling Act and the Michigan's Legal Act. and it
One
does-
point two five
does
three eight
have
oh
the
one.
numbers, so that's on there.
So we're good.
Okay, I think we're good. So let's move on to next meeting is November 6th. The packet. The packet material due date, meaning if you want anything on the agenda and in the packet, all materials must be to Mike Jacobson by 10/28.
By 10/28. I had a question for you.
Yes.
When you get the packet together, it has to be posted. How much
Yes.
time do you have to post it? Who posts?
So I believe currently we
Deb?
may request Deb to post it, correct,
Okay,
Deb?
okay.
And
And how
we had
many
only-
days prior to the meeting does it have to be?
It really should be posted usually, so I ask for the information by the 28th, and that allows me to complete stuff within 2 days. And so ideally, if it gets posted within a couple days.
Is there a
I
statute
don't think
that
there's
says?
any statute about the timeframe,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's
Okay.
as soon
If
as.
it was a public hearing, all this is
Public hearing.
basically the agenda and the supporting documentation.
Oh,
So it's whatever's reasonable for the public.
if you could get it like a week before the meeting to you to get it posted, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Well, the same thing like when you guys want to be able to see it and read it. How much time do you want?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, our bylaws say to try and have it out a week prior.
Yeah.
But the
So
bylaw-
my goal was always by the
10
time they
days,
prior
It should be posted on the website.
have it.
I have one comment to make on the agenda. And this is only.
Are you
'cause
talking about for next month? Is that what
Yes,
you're referring to?
yes.
Okay.
I'm referring to realign your agenda so that number 6 is public hearing. So that you don't forget to put it in there if you are having one. Because if you look at your bylaws, if you look at the ordinance says that number 6 is supposed to be public hearing.
And so you're saying you'd like to see it say that and then just say no.
Well, just, yeah, none.
That's good.
Usually it's supposed to say public hearing, none. Well,
I got it.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying,
Got
because
it.
it's in here, that's all.
Got it. All right. Next on the agenda is public comment. Is there any public comment in the hall? Okay, any public comment on Zoom? Okay, none. PC discussion and comments. Keynotes to share at the township board meeting.
Besides, you changed your bylaws again, you got anything else in the master plan? And
Well,
that
I
you're
think
working on the
because
zoning?
we're going to look at the educational requirements, that probably wouldn't be an appropriate thing to discuss with them yet, because we're gonna be rolling it into the two changes, basically, right? Next month.
Yes.
Then,
clarify
okay,
that.
we'll put that in there.
All right, and I think right now, I'm not sure if if you have already last month notated that we were sending our
I would said
zoning
that,
thing
I
to the
they
attorney.
gave him, I told him that, like I
Okay,
said, nothing. They,
okay,
it's like I talked
master
and
plan.
nothing happened, so
Okay,
I did that, so now I'm gonna reiterate that you guys have a conference call next week with the attorney, verifying that, and
Yeah.
that the master plan was in their mailboxes.
Yep.
And it's still in their mailboxes.
Okay.
So,
okay,
I put a report in about our last meeting for this meeting, so because our meetings are.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the only other thing I was gonna suggest is, because I won't be here next meeting, is make sure, you start your annual if you're gonna,
Oh, the
you gotta
budget.
remember that your annual report and your budget's gonna be probably due in December or January, but you really need to be working on that annual report, and Deb will be helping you. But you really need to be working on that annual report, drawing everything you've done up to this point, so that when you get to February or March, because everybody's gonna be going on vacations again, I'm sure, that annual report's ready to go in April.
okay, should this be added to the agenda for next month?
Yeah,
The annual report,
In the budget,
and budget, start budget, yeah.
because you're probably gonna have to, somebody's about gonna have to go through and end the budget, because you're gonna have to give them something in December or January when they start the budget talks of where you're at and where you're going.
okay. I've
So you're
got it
also gonna
noted.
have to forecast it.
Okay, it's
Okay.
noted. I'll put it in the agenda. All right, so we covered keynotes to share with the regular township board meeting, which is basically, there's nothing significant other than the meeting with the attorney on the zoning ordinance. Action items for PC members. So I think the key things that I heard was, Keith, you were gonna get
An email.
something drafted for education.
Yep. Have it out this weekend.
And then Deb, you were gonna give us the key definitions you'd like people to look at. Okay. Continuing education. Oh, no, I had one more item under PC discussion comments. Got a little section here. I would like to know if people can make it to the meeting in November 6th. So
I'll be
Keith,
here.
you're good?
Yep.
Yep.
Carl, you're good?
Mhm.
Al, you're
Yeah.
good? Denise,
Yes.
you're able to make it?
Yep.
I'm not sure on Mike, but that tells me that we will have a quorum for the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, got the 4 PC members.
I'll be on Zoom.
Yeah, could I just add a quick comment? And it's, I gave everyone a handout about
Yes.
the G1, G2 and the Class C licenses. I had this dialogue with them because I couldn't figure out what the benefit was. But the Class C license, the bottom line is in red, the Class C license is a public license, therefore it must be open to everyone. The G1 or G2 licenses allow private members only admittance. So I'm not sure what the,
What the golf course did where there's no public hearing, good luck.
no, well,
With the
they,
liquor license, because I don't think
I don't,
they even know that.
I'm just saying that I don't know which license was approved for them, but they're
They
not.
might be able to go there and drink then.
I don't know. I just would like to know if it was a Class C, then they should know that it would be open to everyone. And if they don't want it to be open to everyone, then they need to reapply for a G1 or G2 license. But it does count towards our total Class C licenses that we can have in the township. It doesn't give us any extra bonus. It's still,
That's
it
why I
counts as
was-
one.
Right.
But they would have to reapply if they wanted a private members only serving. So I don't know what was approved by the
That's a
township
good one,
board.
Denise. I'll find out.
Okay, great. Heidi, you're gonna take that because this looks like a board question.
Yeah.
It is, and also for future, planning commissioners, if someone comes in, they want a private club. When we have a Class C license again, it'll be something we need to know.
Okay. All right, the last thing on the agenda tonight is Open Meetings Act. And so, this is at the back of your packet. It's lengthy. It's about 21 pages long. I was not going to go through the entire thing. So I would like to just open it up to discussion about, as you reviewed this, was there anything in particular that you thought was worthy of discussion as a group? And this is an excellent guide.
One question I had was the to adjourning meeting with a roll call vote.
Oh, what page are you
I'm
on?
on page 21.
Oh, you're way at the end. Hang on just a
It says
second.
that during the meeting, the president, the presiding officer cannot arbitrarily, which means by whim, impulse, or not by necessity, adjourn a meeting without a first calling a roll call vote. But if you do not adjourn it, if that says arbitrarily, that would mean like if Linda decided, well,
I don't want to hear anything.
I'm going home now.
I
Well,
heard
then we have
this
to-
or slap the hand.
Yeah.
say adjourned.
I had
That's
to
not
have a
allowed.
vote, but if we have fulfilled our agenda, we do not need to have,
Excuse me, you're doing Zoom. You have different rules now.
no.
My
This is from
understanding
the Attorney
is,
General's office. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with that, and she doesn't say but for Zoom.
Okay, well, go look at the Zoom rules now because now you're gonna eliminate Zoom, but okay. Listen, I already got my butt chewed because
So
you didn't
I-
take a roll
I
call.
have
vote.
another book at my office that talks about running township meetings, I think it's called. I think it's a brown book.
Yeah, Robert's Rules of Order.
Well, no, this is an MTA book.
Oh,
So I can look that up.
And Robert's Rules of Order, when you look at their.
okay, but nobody's looking at the Zoom
The
rules.
same thing, that if you don't, if you're gonna do it arbitrarily, you have to have a vote, but if it is not.
Well, this says you may not, presiding officer cannot arbitrarily adjourn a
Sure.
meeting without first calling for a vote of the members.
Yeah,
That says arbitrarily means by whim or impulse.
that came up at the CBA meeting a year ago.
Yeah, okay,
got
let's
in
not,
trouble.
there's, too many people talking about it.
Okay,
There's 3 people talking over.
I'm just gonna voice
Go
one
ahead.
opinion here.
Carl?
Yeah, that came up as a result of our meeting last August in the ZBA where our chairman just said, oh, meeting adjourned. And we're supposed to have a vote. And that we didn't follow the rules, so we got that was in a letter sent to the township supervisor. I think by Mr. Highmore. That was one of the things and there was a long meeting and everybody was done. They just said meeting adjourned. But you're not supposed to do that. You're
Did
supposed
you
to-
fulfill your obligation? I mean.
Oh, yeah,
you
the
fulfilled
meeting-
your-
Meeting was over, but
Okay,
Okay.
it was just inadvertent. But we should have to have a vote.
Every meeting I've ever been to, we always had a roll call vote at the end.
Okay.
No, not a roll call, just a
Okay,
consensus.
but somebody please look at the Zoom rules because you're
Where
not
are
even.
the Zoom rules?
I'll have to ask Ron Pot, but he ran them off to me and that is why I had to come back and report in that we need a roll call vote.
Okay.
they wouldn't
Right.
override
No,
what the Attorney General.
Well, I think
You're,
the point
you
is.
gotta look at Robert's Rules of Order and now you're putting Zoom into the equation. So now you have to put the Zoom into the equation also.
Okay, so any other comments on this document? Anybody have anything? Deb, you got anything for us relative to this?
Just remember that if you are gathered in a place and there's 3 or more of you, don't talk about this Sensor Township stuff.
Mhm.
as a private basis.
I think that's in our bylaws, is it
Yep.
not?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make, go ahead. I'll make a motion to adjourn
Second.
at 9:10.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, that goes on.
Yep.
Too.
That's why I gave you the word.
Okay, and then Keith is gonna call the names here.
All right. Linda?
Yes.
Sorry, Linda Slosuma, yes.
Okay, yes.
Keith DeYoung, yes. Carl Rubble,
Yes.
Al Keaton,
No, yes, yes.
Diana Pelton,
Yes, yes.
Heidi Velmuth,
Yes.
and Mike is.
So if you're for.
I hope they're not taking it.
I understand it, but.
Oh.
To do it right.
Oh, yeah, don't forget your envelope. Good job. Yeah, you should have that.
Yes, it is.
There you go.
I just noticed that when she was doing it, she always rotated. it.
Yeah, but I read in the planning and evening that I'm not supposed to vote unless you need my vote.
Oh,
Because I don't like to leave my.
oh.
Oh.
That's my cord though. No, this one, the.
It's
footer.
It's,
Here, if everybody goes yay or nay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Is that something?
I tried to.
But, you know.
Talk to Gary, this person too, if he would be, he's got. Yeah.
Hey, did you find that where it's supposed to be?
Okay, let's just slip under the door.
You know.
yes, sir.
All right,
That's
you're a
right.
witness that I did it.
You did it. Doing that now. You want my Tootsie Pop? Cause I don't eat candy. I'm not a candy kind of person.
I'll try to get. Mike.
I was gonna, do you want data? I have a lot of notes about the agenda.
So you know, Zoom is still running.
I can commit to
Okay.
doing that this month.
Okay, all
Okay,
right, perfect.
so at least get you started.
Keith,
We're not on Zoom anymore, right?
yes, you are.